is a regional power that is threatening some of its immediate neighbors, not out of strength, but out of weakness.
That's good. That's good. You know, it's good to get that perspective. So we can all just take a breath and calm down.
I continue to be much more concerned when it comes to our security with the prospect of a nuclear weapon going off in Manhattan.
I think I just made a poo-poo.
Jon Stewart, and I got to tell you, it just struck me, that statement, as bizarre on both counts. That was the president yesterday. Joining us on the Malzberg panel, I am happy to say, is former Congressman Pete Hoekstra, and of course, professor at the University of Maryland, economist, and Newsmax contributor, Peter Morici. Hello, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good to be with you.
Good afternoon, and thank you. All right, so Congressman, that statement, you know, that Russia did what it did out of weakness. I mean, again, it sounds like, you know, so professorial. And then I don't know if it's the smartest thing in the world to be so specific about where he's worried about a nuclear weapon going off.
It's one of the more bizarre statements coming out of this administration on foreign policy. There's a lot of them. Russia's more than a regional power. You know, and that all we need to worry about is what they're doing in Crimea and Ukraine. Last I heard, you know, pretty recently, the president was trumpeting the help that he was getting from Russia and the P5+1 talks to solve the Iranian nuke problem. Just before that, he was trumpeting how much Russia and Putin were helping him in ridding Syria of chemical weapons. You know, the president is moving from one statement to another, from one small little crisis to another without an overarching plan.
Yeah, Peter, you know, when he said he's more worried about a nuke going off in Manhattan, it was just a little too specific for me.
Yes, let me be professorial so as to annoy you. It is a... Yes, let's maintain the dignity of my position.
No, I meant because he's a community he was a community organizer and a college professor. That's what, and that a criticism of him is that he's too professorial. That's what I meant.
I understand. I know exactly what he was doing. The reality is that Russia defies definition. It is really only a regional power when it comes to conventional military. Although we could not reach with an army into the Ukraine very easily to rescue the Crimea, we'd likely get cut off, get flanked because of the long supply line. Russia does want that, among other reasons, because it's a port. And it has a 19th century navy sailing around the Black Sea. We could reduce that navy to rubble in a training exercise for the Mediterranean fleet. And that would be our leverage to snuff out that regional power. But for one thing, it happens to sit on enough thermonuclear warheads and missiles to reduce the United States to rubble, which means it can move in ways that other regional powers can't, because it can blackmail us with the threat of nuclear war. Now, not necessarily they would prevail, but that's different. To say they're just a regional power is the kind of thing I would expect a sophomore to say, which I would correct him about and ask him to rewrite his paper. Unfortunately, Mr. Obama is not submitting his speeches to me in advance.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's speaking on behalf of the United States of America and the free world, and I'm sure Putin had a good belly laugh about it. Let me address something that I brought up with General Hayden, former head of the NSA and the CIA, and I asked him if Edward Snowden may have changed the whole landscape with regard to this invasion, if that Putin might have gotten such information from Snowden that allowed him to, you know, camouflage and disguise what he was about to do and what he was doing until it was already done, and might have more such information, and other countries might have more such information, and basically Hayden couldn't say no. He said you got to ask that question, and Congressman, that's frightening. Let's
Yeah,
go ahead, Congressman,
think
first. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think the Russians are pretty aware of generally what we are capable of. I am aware of certain operations that, the CIA or the NSA may have been engaged in. And if Snowden took that specific information with him to Russia, it may have given Putin some insights, greater insights into what our capabilities are, specifically against Russia. I think Snowden probably took information like that, whether he knew he took it or not. I don't know. Whether he gave it to the Russians, I don't know. But the bottom line is he took a lot of information that can hurt us.
Peter, I think you started saying at the beginning that you don't think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he did. I agree with the congressman that he took a lot of information with him that will likely hurt us. But I don't know that in this context. I mean, this is pretty plain vanilla. It has to do with where the Crimea is on the map, where the Soviet forces and capabilities are on the map, and where's ours are not on the map. And the fact that they have these nuclear weapons and so forth. I think what precipitated all of this is very plain. It was the events in the Ukraine where they turned away from Russia. They ousted their prime minister, and he saw an opportunity in the chaos to grab the Crimea and felt compelled to do it because of what was going on. He was about to lose the Ukraine, and he may still lose it. We don't know what Mr. Obama has told him. I doubt that it's been anything that will stop him. If I were in the White House, I would tell him that I was really looking forward to target practice in the Black Sea if he moved so much as one soldier into the Ukraine and he harmed the hair on one head of a Ukrainian soldier. Because after all, I really don't understand the president drawing the line as he did yesterday with regard to NATO. An invasion of Lithuania is a problem, but not an invasion of the Ukraine, because the Ukraine is secured by the United States and the European Union under the 1994 Security Pact. And I don't know why we are not asserting that, wait a minute, we have an agreement here that you're not supposed to go in there militarily and solve this that way. And we are willing to do things other ways, but you've chosen, I don't understand that at all. He's basically abrogating the American agreement.
Congressman, you want to weigh in on that? Interesting point.
Yeah, I don't think Russia is worried about what Obama's saying at this point. I think the analysis as to why Russia went into the Crimean is exactly right. I don't think Putin is worried about what Obama or NATO may say. The bottom line is, from my standpoint, Europe is vulnerable right now. They are vulnerable because they are dependent on Russia for natural gas and for energy. America, over the last 5 years, could have become the energy powerhouse on the planet through fracking and expanding our production of natural gas, continuing to produce coal, do nuclear, more production of oil, and instead the president has been fighting all of these fossil fuels. And instead of having an alternative for Europe, saying you can get your energy from the United States, Europe is now vulnerable and dependent on Russia. The best deterrent to an aggressive Russia, a boisterous Putin, is a strong America, and right now we are a weak America. We can't show leadership because of our own vulnerability.
All right, gentlemen, we appreciate you. Yeah, gentlemen, we'll continue in the next hour on the Malzberg panel. I appreciate it both, Peter Morici and former Congressman Pete Hoekstra. They will join us in the next hour at this time on the Malzberg panel. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Grover Norquist, and we'll talk to him about the health care extension. That's right, the extension that Barack Obama unilaterally decided everybody should get. The March 31st deadline goes out the window, bye-bye, and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll talk to Grover Norquist about that and much, much more when we return on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
We don't just talk about the news, we talk to those making news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.